What's up, everybody? It's Jamie, the owner of Blue Diamond Vapors. I have something super exciting to show you guys. Very cool, something special to show you guys. I know what you guys are thinking though, Jamie, where is your hat? You're always in a hat. I don't have my hat on today. My face is kind of banged up. I'm getting ready for a big jiu-jitsu tournament next Saturday, so sorry about that. In any case, huge special shout out and thank you to Vivo Wholesale out in Las Vegas for hooking me up with one of these to show you guys. This is the Valyrian sub-ohm tank from Uwell. So this is supposed to release to market the 21st of August. If you're a shop owner or whatever out there, you'll be able to get them from them. If you're a customer, you'll be able to buy them online or in stores starting the 21st, I imagine. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna unpackage the Valyrian like always. We're gonna take a look at what's inside the box, and then I will set it up and we'll vape and we'll go from there. So first things first, let's go ahead and pull it off. So one of the things that I noticed right away with the Valyrian package is it's using like that CD kind of wrap like we've seen from Uwell before, but this top, once you take that off, doesn't really stay on, so kind of keep that in mind. So here's our Valyrian tank, and we're gonna get into that in a second, and then here's our package. Now there's just a little piece that comes off, and we have a ton of stuff inside this package. So you're going to get your spare coils, you're going to get some airflow pins, which we're gonna get into in a bit. You're going to get your spare O-rings. You're also going to get, pull all this stuff out here, your manual, which is actually giant sized, but it's in multiple languages, so we expect that. And of course, you're going to get your replacement glass. Excuse me, that wasn't the spare coil, this is the coil. That's actually a second drip tip that you get with the tank with it as well. So we've unpackaged the box. Let's put the tank together and let's take a look at some of the options that the Valyrian offers. Okay, so I've gone ahead and unpacked the Valyrian with you. Before we get into the pieces, I just wanted to show you guys something really quickly. So on my device is the Crown 3. This is the Valyrian. So they're about the same size in height, okay? Now, there's a couple of things that are really unique about the Valyrian, and we're gonna go over them. The first thing is the way we open the tank itself is we push this little button on the side and it's gonna open up the tank, okay? So I push the button and then the tank clicks open, and you can see this is our fill ports, and then here's that little lock with a button right there. So when we go to close the Valyrian down, you can see the tooth coming down on that. We're just gonna close it down and it's gonna snap shut, and you hear that little click. Again, when we wanna open it, we're gonna push this button and it's gonna pop it open. There's a thing about the Valyrian that's very unique that nobody else has done yet. And it deals with the connection pins that are in the device. So you actually get 3 connection pins, and 2 of them have a design. So this is what they call the spiral design. And I can hold it back a little more, you can see it a little clearer there. And this is the wave design. And then of course installed is the original contact, which looks very similar to the Crown 3 contact. Now, when you want to switch these, what you need to do is you need to pop them out. So this one that comes in standard, which is the 510, all you're gonna do to get that out is you can take one of these guys and just push, and it will pop right out. And then when we want to go and install these guys, very easy because we have something to grab, and then we're just going to push it in right there, and then you can see the contact pin, and there's that. So what's going to happen is these coils are going to go down and they're going to thread over that pin. Now, one of the things that's different about the Valyrian from the Crown 3 is that the coils are actually threaded, where the Crown 3 coils are press fit. So these guys are threaded, and you can kind of see in there, there's that 510 pin. So same thing, if I want to switch this, and I've got one of these alternate contact pins in, I can just pull it out, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the spiral in, just like this. Okay, no problem. But if we want to install the flat, which is the base one, it's a little bit trickier. We really have to kind of get in there and line it up and then push it in. So taking it out, super easy. Putting it in, it's not very difficult, but it is a little trickier because it doesn't have the contact, excuse me, it doesn't have something for us to grab like this little stem here. Now you may be wondering, Jamie, what's that for? And it's all about custom airflow and flavor. So these guys are designed so that you have a unique experience when you draw on the tank, and that's really going to be a preference thing. When I go fill this guy up and we start vaping on it, we're going to switch these out so that we can see which ones we like the best, but ultimately that's going to be a personal thing, that's going to be a preference thing for you. You also get 2 drip tips with it. One of them is matching your O-rings, and it's right here, and this is just a 510 press fit, nothing crazy, in a cone shape. And then the other tip that I got in the box is the exact same thing, but just with the gold band. Now, if you jump on Uwell's webpage or anybody else's webpage that are taking pre-orders on these, you'll see the colors that are available, and they're pretty much the same standard colors that we saw with the Crown 3. So this is the stainless, and of course, when you look at the color variants, the O-rings are different based off of that. Now in your package, you also get some spare O-rings, but this O-ring right here, I wanted to show you. This is actually the base O-ring. So for those of you who are wondering, why do I have this little O-ring? That is the O-ring that goes into the base right there. So that's something that normally you don't get as a spare. Sometimes you do, but most of the times you don't. But that's of course because we're gonna be pulling these contact pins on and off. What I suspect though is gonna happen is you're, as a personal preference, gonna find which one of these guys you like the best, and then you're not gonna change it very often. So as a result, that O-ring should last you a little while. Now, as far as the airflow goes, you've got 3 airflow slots, 1, 2, 3. So very similar to the Crown 3 design. As far as the size of the airflow slots in comparison to the Crown 3, the Valyrian slots are just a little bit bigger. So my gut tells me this is going to be a bit more of an airy tank. So this is a 5 mil tank. You get your spare window in here. It's quartz glass, same thing we expect from Uwell. So quality glass as far as replacements goes. Now, as far as the coils go in the package, you get 2 coils. The one that's installed, I believe, is the 0.15, and it looks like actually both these coils are 0.15s. So these are 95 to 120 watts, and I'm going to show you a coil pack later on in the video because I also got a spare pack of coils from Vivo out here in Las Vegas. So again, thank you to those guys at Vivo Wholesale for hooking me up with that. Oh, my employee handed it to me. Bam, here's the box. Okay, so this is a 2-piece box, 0.15. You know, with Uwell, we usually see 4 coil packs. Here, though, we're seeing 2 coil packs. One of the things I thought was interesting about this coil pack, and I'm just going to show you really quickly, that kind of caught me by surprise here, is when I opened this coil pack, inside the box is a little user manual. So I thought that was kind of cool. That's not something you see a lot of times in coil packs. The coil packs themselves, they're in that exact same plastic that the Crown 3 coil packs came in, so they're not very easy to open without like a knife or a pair of scissors, so just kind of something to keep in mind. So that's really the tank broken down. You know, as far as changing the glass, you know, it's kind of same stuff we expect from Uwell, nothing crazy there. Really the big differences are the button hinge to open up the tank, and then of course the different contact pins with the adjustment for the airflow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill this guy up, we're gonna prime it, and then we're gonna start vaping on it and see how it goes. Okay, so I went ahead and primed the coil, and I filled the tank up. To fill the tank up, I use a little dispensing cap like this, so not a unicorn or needle like we normally see. Didn't have any issues with that, so that's a good thing. The fill ports did look a little smaller. They're definitely smaller, I think, than the Crown 3. Let's just take a look for comparison. They're actually the same size. So if you're using a Crown 3 and you're using a dispensing cap like that, then you're not gonna have any issues. So right now, I've got this guy set at 100 watts. At 80 watts, I thought the vape was fine. The coil does recommend 95 to 120, and at 80 watts, I thought the vape was fine, but here it is at 100. Get that out of the way there. So I took a couple of chain hits, like 4 or 5 in a row, no dry hits whatsoever. Awesome vape, flavor's on point. It's what I expect from Uwell, especially with the Crown 3. You know, obviously, if we go back in time, we look at the Raphael, which is something we don't talk about often, but the Crown 1 was amazing. The Crown 3 is amazing. So far, this tank, just a few draws I've made on it. The flavor is awesome. Definitely what I expect from the profile. Air-wise, it's very airy. It's definitely airier than the Crown 3. This reminds me a lot of the TFV12. So if you like the airflow draw from the Cloud King, the TFV12, you will like the airflow from this. When I shut the airflow down to about half, this reminds me a little more of what we get from the Crown 3. So all the way open, definitely an airy vape like the TFV12. Awesome flavor profile, really happy with it at 100 watts. The tank is a little warm. It's not hot, but it is warm, and that's what we'd expect from any tank running at 100 watts. So let's take one more draw off of that. Awesome. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take this up to 120. Now right now I have the spiral connection pin installed, And one of the things that when you look at these connection pins, and I don't know that you're going to be able to see this on the video, but there is some engraving there. And one of the things that this says is 100 to 120 watts. When we look at the base, the open airflow, there's nothing there. It's completely blank. I didn't check the spiral. I should have, but I didn't. So when I switch pins for the next example, I'll let you know what that says. But here it is at 120 watts. So there's 4 quick draws back to back at 120. No dry hits. The vapor's not hot. It stays cool. It is warm, obviously it's 120 watts, but it's not a hot vape. Definitely something I could see for those people who like vaping at 120 watts or that power. I could see them really like that. So if you're using your TFV12 right now, you're running 120, 140, I could definitely see you liking this draw. Now, one of the things you'll see is this is a 5 mil window, and just from priming and vaping, we've gone through about half the tank. That's pretty normal, you know, because we've got to prime, of course, and then go from there. So just like our Crown 3 coils, we have a little line that shows us this is our min line. This is when we should be looking to refill the Valyrian to avoid dry hits, and we're still above that min line right now. So let's take a couple more draws. So a little bit longer draws. And the vapor is getting warmer on the back end of those longer draws. One of the things I've noticed about this drip tip is this is a very similar drip tip that came on the Crown 3. Obviously it's bigger, so that's nice, so we're not touching the tank. But one of the things you guys probably noticed in the video when I showed you my Crown 3 was that I had switched my drip tip to a steel chuck drip tip, and I would probably end up doing the same thing with the Valyrian. I just didn't personally like the feel of the drip tip that came with it stock. So that's a preference thing. That's something that you guys may decide down the road, hey, I want to swap this out. There's great airflow in this drip tip. It feels comfortable, but it is that same kind of Delrin blend that they used in the Crown 3 drip tip, and I just didn't like it. So that's a personal thing. You're gonna have to decide for yourself whether or not you like that drip tip. One of the things though that I was kind of looking at when I looked at this tank is this little button right here, because as I'm trying to open it, you know, the tank is warm, so we're gonna have to have some good pressure there, and that's something you're gonna have to be kind of conscious of. I do have some concerns about this button and how long it's gonna last from opening and closing, and of course we're not gonna know the answer to that question until somebody's really used the tank, myself included, for a couple of months. So I suspect that in the beginning there'll be no issues, but after opening and closing that tank for 2-3 months, you know, especially if you're somebody who's filling your tank up 4 or 5 times a day, which is a lot in my opinion, but you know, the average vapor is about 2 or 3 tanks, especially on a 5 mil. You could have some wear on that button right there, but so far pretty good. It is pretty stiff, so you do have to give it a bit of a press in order to get it opened and closed. And you're gonna have to kind of push that button in because it is pretty stiff right out of the package. But overall, I'm really happy with the design of the tank. The airflow is awesome, the flavor's on point. Again, I put that spiral pin in. I'm gonna switch to the wave pin. We'll take a couple of draws on the wave pin, and then we'll figure it out from there. I went ahead and I put the wave pin inside. This was the spiral pin that I had in before. So the spiral pin says 95 to 105. And remember what I said, when we were vaping at 120, the vapor was getting a little hot. So I was kind of a skeptic at first. But when I put the wave tip in, or excuse me, the wave pin, what I found was that the airflow was a little more restrictive. Not much, but it definitely was a difference in the draw. But the vapor is staying actually a lot cooler at 120. Surprisingly, that wave pin actually cooled the vapor down quite a bit. Like I said, I was a skeptic, but it definitely seems to have done the trick. So we're still at that 120. And the vapor's a lot cooler. Really interesting, unique feature. I think that that's going to become a preference thing. You know, that's something that you're going to have to decide for yourself which contact pin that you like. It does make the airflow a little more restrictive than the spiral pin. I think the vape at 100 watts was a lot better than the vape at 120 with the spiral pin in. The wave pin definitely holds up at that 120. I'm going to bring it down to 100 watts just to kind of show you. And at 100 watts, the vapor is super cool, actually more like a 40 watt vape, so that's really surprising there. So we've turned the Valyrian, or excuse me, turned the power down to 100, but I kept that wave tip in, which is that 100 to 120 watts. And like I was saying, the vapor is really cool. It's more like a 40 watt vape, which is surprising to me. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really incredible, actually. As always, I'll shoot a follow-up in about a week or two after I've used this coil for a bit to give you an idea about what I think of coil life, which is obviously a big factor when we're picking sub-ohm tanks, what we like, what we don't like. What I said at the start of the video definitely is holding true. It's a very airy tank, so if you like the TFE 12, if you just want more airflow, this is definitely something I think you're going to be interested in. Pros of the tank, obviously great flavor. That's what we expect from Uwell, great flavor. Airy draw, the ability to adjust the pins actually, I'm very surprised with. This spiral pin was a little airier than the wave pin, but the wave pin definitely is cooling the vapor down at 100 and 120 watts. The tank is not as warm, but I don't think I've taken as many draws on this as I did with the spiral pin, so I suspect the tank will be as warm. As far as cons goes, it's a little early to tell, but like I said before, I think this button may become an issue down the road as we've used this tank for a couple of months, hopefully not. I don't like the drip tip that they give you, the Delrin drip tip that you will put on the Crown 3 and on the Valyrian, but that's a preference thing. I think that's something you're gonna have to try for yourself and see whether or not you like the feel of this drip tip. This cone style drip tip is something we've seen a lot on like Brit Beast, we saw on the Doge and a few other devices out there. So that's a preference for you. You get two coils in the box. They're both 0.15s. I showed you the coil pack earlier in the video. Price range, the tank's not out yet, comes out tomorrow, I believe. But price range, I expect to see the tank price somewhere between $35 and $45, depending on where you're buying the tank from. And coils, I expect to see them probably in a similar price range, about $5 a coil. Yeah, man, super cool tank. Definitely something I would recommend that you check out. If you got a Crown 3 and you like the experience, but maybe the draw is a little more restrictive, especially if you were coming from TFV 8 or a TFV 12, then the Valyrian's airflow is definitely going to be something that you like. Size-wise, one more time, just to compare it to the Crown 3 for you, about the same size, 5mm window, same quartz glass we always see from Uwell. Very, very good construction in the tank, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing the other colors. If you jump on Uwell's webpage, you can take a look at them. They're pretty much the same color designs that we saw with the Crown 3 though. So comes out tomorrow, the 21st. That's your first look at the Valyrian. Thank you again, Vivo Wholesale out in Las Vegas, for hooking me up with the coil pack and the tank so that I could show everybody, and look for the follow-up video in about a week or two, and we'll talk about coil life and just some of my experiences after using the tank for a bit. As always, if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments. Catch me on Facebook. You can pop into our shop if you're in Las Vegas. I'm in and out all the time, and look forward to answering all of them for you. Take care.